In our last segment, we were just talking about looking at energy from a different point of view than uh, what you get in typical physics classes and so on. And we were talking about moments. And I'll come back to this again and again, but before we start looking at anything to study it, and this being energy, you have to look at what it is that we're using to see, to perceive. For example, if we have a telescope and we want to make sure the lens is incredibly accurate and ground just right, and we want it to be precise. Now, what isn't often considered is the people who are perceiving, the scientists, the physicists, the investigators, how is their equipment? What's their tool like themselves? Their own brain, their own faculties. And that's where you get into some very interesting teachings from a long time ago. My favorite is the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And basically, that book is about learning how to use our attention span to, because that's really all we have. We have awareness, we have some attention, the me, the whoever, the sense of, okay, I'm alive, I can experience something. And you take that, well, what do you do with that? You can let it wander around, you can let it just be distracted constantly, or you can make it precise. You can make it a very precise tool, and that's what have. That's why these ancient people who are called, yogis or masters or rishis or whatever, what they did was they used that attention span to concentrate on energy. Now, um, as opposed to saying setting up a magnetic, display or some kind of electronic display or something where you see fancy lightning sparks and all kinds of discharge and so on. Instead of doing that and having a physical interaction with that energy in that manner, what yogis do is start by feeling the energy that they have. Start right here where we are in our own equipment, our own inner, our bodies, our breath, our heat, our electricity. Start by perceiving that. And you know what? That turns out to be a very, very amazing subject. The faculties of the human system is a very amazing subject. And in particular, certain aspects of how to perceive ourselves, not just intellectually, but actually to become energy, to feel oneself as being sound, or to feel the wind, and not feel limited. While living in our body, enjoying everything that we can do, but also having an inner sense of how things are related and an inner sense of our own presence in it, and to experience a place in perception where there's no mental reaction to what you see, what you perceive. We cannot, we will never, none of us will ever see truth or see things as they are. Reality, so-called, that's real. We're not going to see that until we open our awareness channels to the reality that scientifically we know, everybody, right here, there's not really a barrier between my skin because there's atoms, there's heat going out, there's a lot of processes happening right in the hand, all of our hands. But we don't think about it. We don't perceive it. We don't. You can do that. You can feel your hands often very easily. You can feel energy around your hands. If you ever hug a dog has a very powerful electric field. That's why, you hug a dog and you feel so good. They have a very powerful integrating, most dogs, big dogs. You see, so getting back to our study of energy, you have to start local. Start perceiving the energy, how your own system works. Because it turns out if you study that, if you put your attention onto that part, the inner part of us, the energy part, then it leads to a lot of other questions being answered. So again, getting back to the study of energy and our perception, and to start with moments, to start with, there's this, I heard that Einstein had been thinking, the way he realized about the speed of light, he was thinking about how light was going faster and faster and faster, and he was riding on the beam of light. In other words, he was visualizing and feeling his presence on a beam of light. And he came to a revelation. So, to begin with, to see the world as energy sometimes requires an attitude shift for some people, because what we do, we often just look at objects. Everything's an object, an object, an object. It's hard. You can touch it. But you go to even high school these days or college, you take some basic physics class, and you realize, well, wait a minute here. There's a mystery involved here, how the atoms hold together, how the phenomena, the absolute incredible, how all that energy is stored, and how there's an appearance, there's a 3D matrix that we're living in and acting in, and things are changing, and this is an absolute, we talk about movies these days, that movie Avatar, or wow, look at that, but I mean, just look around, look at a tree. But we take it for granted. So to try to understand energy, honing our perception to moments, to a presence, the feeling is what are we, who are we in relation to what we're trying to perceive. To know yourself is not just like you go and you say, hey, I found myself the other day, and okay, now everything's cool, I discovered who I was. But it's truthfully, discovering who we are is an endless process. But now we're going to go on and discuss more of the details, and I have a lot of very interesting information. This is basically an intro. I have a lot of details that I'd like to share next segment.